Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Hack. In this video, I'll be breaking down some of the worst item sets in the Elder Scrolls Online, as well as offering my suggestions on how they can be improved. Now these are just my own personal opinions on how I would like to see some gear sets reworked and updated. So if you have your own ideas, definitely let us know in the comments section below. And who knows, maybe a developer will see this and your rework might make it into the game. ZeniMax has reworked quite a few sets over the past years, so I'm just hoping that we can start a discussion and hopefully get some improvements made this coming year. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the list. So I want to start off talking about some light armor sets that deal elemental damage. I'm talking about Silks of the Sun, Netch's Touch, and this one. Yeah, I'm not gonna try to say that one. All of these sets do increased damage to a specific elemental type, whether it's fire, shock, frost. Now I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago, these sets were actually good, and the idea is solid, I think, in terms of specializing your character in one specific type of damage. The problem though is that with recent DLC releases and new item sets coming out, we see new item sets that are outperforming these ones. For example, we now have the New Moon Acolyte set, which gives you more raw spell damage overall, which is going to improve actually all of your skills and not just one single element. Then you also have one of my favorite sets, Elemental Succession, which gives you 150 more spell damage, not just to one element, but to all 3 elements at once, which basically leaves no reason at all for these sets anymore. So in terms of adjustments to these, obviously I think the damage needs to come up. I would like to see specific damage to be raised from 400 to about 500. Considering that you are sacrificing a lot for your build to specialize in one of these specific elements, so I think that makes sense without being too powerful. Hitting that 500 mark would also make these sets slightly better than New Moon Acolyte for specific builds, but I think we also need something maybe just a little bit extra. And that's why I'd also like to recommend a small cost reduction bonus on top of the spell damage, maybe 3%, 4, 5%, but just for skills that use that specific element. So for Netch's Touch, as an example, you could get 500 extra shock damage, plus 5% cost reduction on any ability that does shock damage. Now one more set fits into this category of specific damage types for light armor, and that is the War Maiden set. This one does magic damage specifically. So I'd like to see it adjusted along the same lines. It doesn't have to be the same necessarily, but similar, where I'd like to see the spell damage increased here, because again, the set is so specific, and really the only classes that are gonna take good advantage here are probably Nightblades and Magicka Templars. So again, I think that 500 spell damage mark is appropriate for an adjustment here. So next up, I wanna talk about snare reduction sets in medium armor, including Barkskin and Ranger's Gate. Now Barkskin is interesting because it already gives you some health and stamina. However, you must be snared in order to proc that, so you can't really depend on it for sustaining your build. Plus the bonus here is relatively weak and the cooldown kinda long. So first, I'd like to see the cooldown reduced to maybe 2 to 3 seconds. But then I also like to see some other unique effect added on top of the recovery. I think maybe the name here implies this could be sort of like a medium armor defensive set. So maybe an additional armor bonus on top of the sustain, maybe 3K, 4K armor, which would stack on top of all of your minor and major armor buffs already. So basically a burst of health and stamina when you get snared, plus that additional protective armor bonus. Now Ranger's interesting too because it reduces snare potency by 50%. And I did used to recommend this set for PvP, like beginner builds a few years ago. But since then, I think snares are kind of on the decline in ESO. Many abilities that we have don't have the snares attached anymore. Plus some of the snare potency has been reduced. So this doesn't really justify a 5-piece bonus anymore, in my opinion. Even for a beginner set, it's pretty lackluster. So I have 2 thoughts on this. One would be, let's extend the snare reduction to your entire group. So like you're the ranger, you're the pathfinder for your group, leading your group through the jungles or whatever, and you're gonna provide this snare reduction for maybe like 4, even up to 12 players, making it easier for your entire group to travel with you. So it could be a group buff, which reduces snares for the entire team by some value. Then I would say maybe the other option, if you wanted to keep it buffed just on the player that's wearing the set, is just give them permanent snare immunity. I know it sounds powerful, but remember you're sacrificing a complete 5-piece set just for utility, so you're not getting any weapon damage out of it at all. You give up that damage to make yourself immune to snares. Maybe you save yourself a bar slot, you don't have to slot shuffle anymore. I think that would be another interesting way to play with the set. So switching back to light armor sets for a bit, I wanted to talk about Scathing Mage. And this is a classic set that's really fallen out of favor over the years. Now I think the bonus itself is great. You have over 500 raw spell damage with a limited cooldown. The main issue here, I think, is the proc chance. Not only is the proc chance low at 20%, but it also requires a specific damage source, namely critical damage. So while theoretically you can have 100% uptime because the duration matches the cooldown, it's just not even going to be close to that because it has such a low proc chance, and it's not on any damage, it has to be on crit damage specifically. So I wouldn't change the damage numbers here, what I would change is the proc chance. There's several ways you could do that. You could just raise the proc chance to something like 50%. So every time you get a crit, you have a 50-50 chance of proccing this buff if it's off cooldown. Or you can even just remove the proc chance altogether, make it proc as soon as you deal that first critical strike. If there was concerns about balance, you could change the uptime a little bit. Maybe it's up for 6 seconds and down for 2 seconds, something like that, I don't know. Mostly we just need to raise the reliability of the proc to make the set useful. Now another light armor set that I had really high hopes for, especially on my Sorcerer and Dragon Knight healers, was Trinamax Valor. I thought this set would be great because those classes have access to lots of damage shields, and that's how you get this set to proc, so it was kind of an interesting class-focused set there. But once I used it, I was very, very disappointed. First of all, the heal is extremely low, and if you're thinking about running this in PvP, remember that that heal is cut in half. So a 2,000 heal, basically, once you apply Battle Spirit, can just forget about that. Also considering it's at 5 seconds. 2,000 health every 5 seconds is straight up garbage. Now, I'm not concerned about the damage. I think the damage can stay the same, but I would love the heal to at least double up to like about 8,000. I think you could slightly reduce the cooldown as well, maybe to about 3 or 4 seconds to improve the set. Overall, it just needs more healing, especially when you consider this might be a PvP set. It's gonna get cut in half, so at least 8,000 base heal is where I would like to see this fall. And then just a couple more medium armor sets I want to mention. One is the Crusader set. This gives you a 0.3 second bonus dodge roll chance. I don't even know what that is. I don't see it being useful, but it's really, really a terrible 5-piece bonus. There's plenty of dodge roll bonus sets in the game that provide much better utility for using a dodge roll. So if Zos wants to stick to the dodge roll focus of the set, fine, but the bonus needs to be better. Instead of just increasing the duration, they should think about adding a unique offensive or defensive bonus to the roll dodge. We have several sets like that. One thing just off the top of my head, might be interesting to proc Minor Berserk for 3 to 4 seconds after a dodge roll. For an offensive set, if you want it to be more defensive, you could do the same thing but have it proc Minor Protection. That way some medium armor builds that don't have access to those buffs can get access through this set. Then one more here, I was thinking about Oblivion's Edge. This is another set that needs a lot of love, you guys. First of all, I like the tie-in with the soul gems. I think that's interesting, and there's some more that can be done with that. But at base, we need something more than just 100 weapon damage. Also, I would change this to not just when you get the kill, but just when an enemy around you dies, or maybe an enemy that you've damaged dies, then you get some sort of bonus. Maybe both health and stamina, considering this is a medium armor set. That would be the base 5-piece bonus. Then you could tie in something extra if you happen to have soul gems on you. Maybe if you have an empty soul gem, you could absorb some energy and you get an additional effect on top of the stamina. Maybe you get like 6% increased damage for 5 seconds or 8% damage reduction for 5 seconds, something like that, which would also stack with other bonus effects that you have going on from your buffs. But again, like most of these sets, it just needs to do more to be considered a useful set. And with that, I'm gonna wrap up this video on some of the worst item sets in ESO. These are some of my top picks and how I would like to see them updated in the future. I know there's lots more item sets out there that need adjusting, And if you have feedback on those, definitely let us know in the comments section below. Like I said, who knows, maybe a developer will check this out and one of your ideas could make it in the game in the future. I think that would be awesome. So as always, if you guys enjoyed the discussion day, don't forget to crush that like button. It really does help. Make sure you subscribe for future videos on the Elder Scrolls Online. And until then, I will see you around in the next video. Thanks.